The message came at midnight, Earth time. It arrived on every frequency at once, cutting through military channels and civilian broadcasts like a knife through paper. Admiral Park Do-hyun was sleeping when his aide woke him. The old soldier read the transmission twice before he believed it. The High Council of the Galactic Accord was summoning humanity. Not inviting, summoning, like a parent calling a misbehaving child. Do-hyun had served in Earth's space fleet for 40 years. He remembered the day first contact happened, when massive alien vessels appeared above every major city on the planet. He remembered the fear, the wonder, the hope. Humanity was not alone. The universe was full of life, full of civilizations, full of knowledge waiting to be shared. That was 50 years ago. The hope had died slowly, year by year, as humanity learned what their place in the galaxy truly was. They were nothing. A minor species. A newcomer. The Galactic Accord had existed for 9,000 years, maintained by 12 elder species who had mastered space travel when humans were still living in caves. These elder races had created peace across 10,000 star systems. They had ended wars, stopped genocides, and built a civilization that spanned the galaxy. And they expected gratitude. They expected obedience. They expected humanity to know its place. Do-hyun dressed quickly and called an emergency meeting. Within 2 hours, the leaders of Earth's united Terran government were assembled in the Situation Room beneath the Capitol. President Kang Mi-rae sat at the head of the table, her face calm but her eyes sharp. She was a small woman with gray hair and a voice that could silence a room. "What do they want?" she asked. "The message does not say," Do-hyun replied. "Only that we must send representatives to Volanthos Prime within 10 standard days. They call it a judicial assembly." The room went quiet. Judicial assembly. Those words had weight. In the Accord's history, judicial assemblies had been called only 7 times. Each time, a species had been judged. Each time, that species had been punished. "Who should we send?" the president asked. Do-hyun had already thought about this. Captain Yoon Ji-soo. She has diplomatic training and military experience. She knows how to talk to them, but she also knows when talking is useless. President Kang nodded. She knew Ji-soo well. The captain had represented Earth at several Accord functions, always with grace, always with dignity, even when the elder species treated her like a servant. Send her, and give her whatever support she needs. 3 days later, the human delegation departed Earth aboard the diplomatic vessel Sunrise. Captain Yoon Ji-soo stood on the bridge, watching the stars stretch into lines as they entered faster than light travel. Behind her stood Dr. Choi Sun-woo, a tall man with glasses and a permanent frown. He had spent 20 years studying the Accord, learning its laws, its history, its secrets. If anyone could guess what the council wanted, it was him. Beside Sun-woo was Lieutenant Han Nari, the youngest member of the delegation. She was only 28, but she had a gift. She could read people, human or alien. She noticed the small movements, the tiny expressions, the things that others missed. In negotiations with alien species, that gift was worth more than weapons. "What do you think they want?" Nari asked quietly. Sun-woo pushed his glasses up his nose. "Nothing good. The council does not summon minor species for praise. They summon them for punishment." Ji-soo turned to face her team. She was a woman in her 40s, with short black hair and a scar across her left cheek from a battle she never talked about. Her eyes were steady, her voice calm. "Whatever they want, we will face it together. We will represent humanity with dignity. We will not beg, and we will not grovel. But we will also not provoke them. Understood?" Both officers nodded. The journey to Volanthos Prime took 6 days. The station was ancient, built before humans discovered fire. It hung in empty space between galaxies, a massive ring of metal and crystal that glowed with soft light. Ships from 100 species surrounded it, each one larger and more advanced than the sunrise. Jisoo felt small as they approached. That was the point, she knew. The council wanted visitors to feel small. They were escorted to a waiting chamber by Villani guards. The Villani were one of the 12 elder species, tall and thin with silver skin and eyes like black pools. They moved with perfect grace, never hurrying, never showing emotion. They did not speak to the humans. They did not need to. The waiting lasted 3 hours. Then the doors opened, and the humans were led into the grand assembly hall. The hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed beneath it, drifting slowly in the artificial atmosphere. The floor was made of some dark stone that reflected light like water. And arranged in a massive circle around the room were the representatives of the 12 elder species, each sitting on a throne carved from materials that humans could not name. At the center of the circle was a single platform. The humans were directed to stand there, like criminals before a court. The eldest of the council members spoke. He was Tarani, a species that looked like a mixture of insect and machine. His voice was translated by devices embedded in the human's ears, but even through the translation, his contempt was clear. Humanity. Species 4417 in the Accord Registry. Probationary member for 50 standard years. You have been summoned to answer for your crimes against the peace. Jisoo kept her face neutral. We are not aware of any crimes, honored elder. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. A sound rippled through the hall. It took Jisoo a moment to realize it was laughter. There is no misunderstanding, the Tarani said. Our observers have documented your violations in great detail. You have built warships beyond your allocated quota. You have developed weapons capable of faster-than-light deployment. You have expanded your military infrastructure by 300% in the last decade. These are violations of the doctrine of stillness, the founding law of the Accord. Sunwoo leaned close to Jisoo. The doctrine of stillness, he whispered. It freezes every species military at the level they had when they joined. We joined with almost nothing. Jisoo understood now. The Accord's peace was not true peace. It was control. The elder species had joined when they were already powerful, so they remained powerful. Younger species like humanity joined when they were weak, so they remained weak. Forever. What is your judgment? Jisoo asked. Her voice did not shake. The Tyranny's black eyes gleamed. Earth must dismantle its unauthorized fleet. Earth must surrender its shipyards to Accord oversight. Earth must accept permanent military observation. Humanity will become a protected species, cared for and guided by elder wisdom. You will be safe. You will be provided for. And you will never threaten the peace again. Protected species. The words were pretty, but Jisoo knew what they meant. Pets, prisoners, children who would never be allowed to grow up. And if we refuse? She asked. The hall went silent. No species had ever refused a council judgment. The very idea was unthinkable. The Tyranny leaned forward on his throne. Then humanity will be removed from the Accord. Your colonies will be seized. Your people will be scattered. And Earth will learn what happens to those who challenge 9,000 years of peace. Jisoo stood very still. Behind her, Nari's hands were shaking. Sunwoo's face had gone pale. We request time, Jisoo said finally. Time to consult with our government. This is a significant decision. The Tyranny considered this. Around the circle, the other elders whispered among themselves. You have 3 standard days, the Tyranny said at last. Use them wisely, little species. Your future depends on your choice. The humans were escorted out. As the great doors closed behind them, Jisoo allowed herself one moment of weakness. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she opened her eyes and looked at her team. "Send a message to Earth," she said. "Tell them everything. And tell Admiral Park to prepare for the worst." The message was sent. And on Earth, humanity began to make a choice that would shake the galaxy to its core. The message from Volantos Prime arrived on Earth like a bomb. Within hours, the news had spread to every corner of the planet. People gathered in streets, in homes, in offices, staring at screens and talking in hushed voices. The Galactic Council had given humanity a choice: become slaves or be destroyed. President Kang My-rae called an emergency session of the United Terran Assembly. Leaders from every nation on Earth came together in the Great Hall beneath the Capitol building. The room was designed for 1,000 people, but today it felt too small. The air was thick with tension and fear. Admiral Park Do-hyun stood at the front, his old face tired but determined. He had not slept since receiving Jisoo's message. He had spent every hour reviewing military reports, checking numbers, preparing for the decision that would come. "The situation is simple," he said to the assembly. "The Council wants us to give up everything that makes us strong. Our ships, our weapons, our ability to protect ourselves. In return, they promise to take care of us, like farmers take care of cattle." A politician from the Eastern Federation raised his hand. "Admiral, with respect, we cannot fight the Accord. They have thousands of ships. We have 300. This is not a battle we can win." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "You are correct. If we fight them directly, we will lose. But there is another question we must ask ourselves. What happens if we surrender?" He touched a control, and images appeared on the screens around the room. Images of other species. Species that had once been proud and independent. Species that had accepted the Council's protection. "The Morani," Do-hyun said. "They joined the Accord 8,000 years ago as a protected species. Today, their population is 1/10 of what it was. They have no industry, no science, no culture. They exist only because the Council allows them to exist. The Palathi, the Servani, the Kethi, all protected species, all slowly dying, not from war, not from disease, from irrelevance, from having no purpose, from being told, generation after generation, that they are not good enough to stand on their own." The room was silent. Do-hyun let the silence stretch before he continued. "The Council does not want to destroy us. They want to tame us. They want to make us forget that we were ever wolves. And in 1,000 years, our grandchildren will not even remember what freedom meant." Dr. Choi Sun-woo stepped forward. He had returned from Volantos Prime just hours ago, his face still pale from the journey. "I have studied the Accord for 20 years, he said. "I have read their laws, their histories, their secret communications when I could find them. And I can tell you this, the doctrine of stillness is not about peace. It is about power." He brought up a chart showing the military strength of different species. The elder races had massive fleets, hundreds of thousands of ships each. The younger races had almost nothing. Every species is frozen at the level they had when they joined. The elders joined when they were empires. We joined when we were infants. This is not an accident. This is by design. The Accord is not a partnership. It is a hierarchy. And humanity is at the bottom. A woman from the Southern Coalition stood up. Her name was Baek Yuna, and she was known for her cautious nature. "But doctor, even if what you say is true, what can we do? We are weak. They are strong. Sometimes the wise choice is to accept reality." Sun-woo looked at her with sad eyes. "I understand your fear, Representative Baek. I share it. But I have also seen what happens to species that accept this reality. They do not survive. Oh, they continue to exist. They breathe and eat and reproduce. But they are not alive. Not really. They become shadows of what they once were. President Can Mireille had been listening in silence. Now she stood, and every eye in the room turned to her. "I have heard the arguments on both sides," she said, "and I understand why many of you are afraid. We are a young species. We have only been among the stars for a century. The Council has been ruling the galaxy since before we learned to write. It would be easy to bow. It would be safe to submit. But I must ask you all a question." She paused, looking around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. What would our ancestors think of us? The ones who fought and died for freedom. The ones who crossed oceans in wooden ships. Who climbed mountains just to see what was on the other side. Who looked at the moon and said, "We will go there." What would they think if they saw us now? Ready to give up everything because we are afraid? Her voice grew stronger. We did not come this far by being safe. We did not survive ice ages and plagues and wars by accepting our place. We survived because we refused to accept limits. Because we believed always that tomorrow could be better than today. That is what makes us human. Admiral Doyen spoke again. There is one more thing the Council does not know. Something we have kept secret for 30 years. The room went very quiet. When we joined the Accord, they counted our ships. 300. That is all we had, and that is all they let us keep. But they only counted the ships they could see. He touched another control. New images appeared. Ships. Thousands of ships. Hidden in asteroid fields and hollow moons, in the dark spaces between planets where the Accord sensors never looked. "We have been preparing," Doyen said. Quietly, carefully, not for conquest. Not for empire. Just for survival. Just in case the day came when we needed to defend ourselves. That day is here. The room erupted in noise. Shock, anger, hope, fear, all mixed together. Doyen let them talk for several minutes before raising his hand for silence. "I am not saying we should go to war. I am saying we have options. We are not as helpless as the Council believes. We can negotiate from a position of strength, not weakness." President Kang nodded. "Then that is what we will do. We will send Captain Yoon back to Volantos Prime with a counter-proposal. We will ask for full membership in the Accord. Equal status. The right to defend ourselves as the elder species do. We will ask for fairness." Representative Beek spoke again. "And if they refuse?" The president looked at her with steady eyes. "Then we will decide what to do next. But we will not surrender before the battle even begins. We owe our children more than that." The vote was taken. It was not unanimous, but the majority was clear. Humanity would not comply with the Council's demands. They would negotiate. They would stand tall. They would remember who they were. Captain Yoon Jasu received her new orders on Volantos Prime. She read them twice, then smiled for the first time since arriving at the ancient station. She requested an audience with the Council. She was granted 1 hour. When she walked into the Grand Assembly Hall again, she did not feel small. She felt like she was carrying the weight of 8 billion people on her shoulders, and that weight made her strong. "Honored elders," she said, her voice clear and confident. "Earth has considered your proposal. We have a counter-proposal of our own. We request full membership in the Accord, equal status with all species, the right to build, to grow, to defend ourselves as every species should have the right to do." The hall was silent for a long moment. Then the laughter began. It started with the Villani, their silver bodies shaking with amusement. It spread to the Turani, the Kethani, all the elder species. They laughed like adults watching a child demand to sit at the grown-up table. The Tyranny elder finally spoke, still chuckling. "You are bold, little human. Foolish, but bold. Your request is denied. You have 2 days remaining. When the time ends, you will submit, or you will suffer. That is all." "That's all." Jizu bowed politely, her face calm, her heart burning. "Then we have nothing more to discuss," she said. "For now." She walked out of the hall with her head held high. The elders did not stop laughing until long after she was gone. They would not be laughing much longer. The council's response came faster than anyone expected. They did not wait for the deadline to pass. They did not give humanity another chance to reconsider. Instead, they made an example. On the morning of the second day, the High Council issued a new declaration. Humanity's membership in the Galactic Accord was revoked. All human trade agreements were cancelled. All human colonies outside the Sol system were ordered to evacuate immediately. Earth and its people were declared pre-civilized, a term that meant they were no longer protected by Accord law. Captain Yoon Jisu received the news while still aboard Valanthos Prime. She sent an urgent message to Earth and prepared to leave. But before her ship could depart, a Villani official visited her quarters. "You should watch the news feeds," the Villani said, his silver face showing nothing. "Your people are learning what it means to defy the Accord." Jizu turned on the display. What she saw made her blood run cold. The human colony of New Bizin was a mining world in the outer territories. 200,000 people lived there, mostly workers and their families. It was a peaceful place, far from politics and power struggles. The people there just wanted to do their jobs and raise their children. The Villani fleet had arrived at New Bizan 6 hours ago. 20 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They claimed they were there to ensure orderly evacuation, but the images on the screen told a different story. Villani soldiers were marching through the streets of New Bizin's capital city. They were forcing people out of their homes, herding them into camps near the spaceport. Those who moved too slowly were beaten. Those who tried to run were shot. The evacuation ships were leaving, but they were only half full. The Villani were not letting everyone aboard. They were separating families, taking children from parents, dividing workers from their loved ones. There was no logic to it, no order. It was chaos. It was cruelty. And then the worst part came. A group of colonists had tried to escape in a cargo shuttle. It was an old ship, barely capable of reaching orbit, filled with women and children trying to flee the violence. The Villani warship in orbit did not give them a warning. It did not try to stop them peacefully. It simply fired. The shuttle exploded in a ball of orange flame. 137 people died in an instant. Among them were entire families, grandparents, babies, gone. Jisu watched the recording 3 times. Each time, she felt something break inside her. Lieutenant Han Nari found her an hour later, still staring at the screen. Nari's face was wet with tears. "My brother is there," Nari said, her voice breaking. "Tayo. He works in the mining administration. I have not heard from him since the Villani arrived." Jisu reached out and took the young woman's hand. "We will find him. I promise." But finding him would not be easy. Communications with New Bizin had been cut. The Villani controlled all signals in and out of the system. The colony was completely isolated. 3 days later, a single transmission escaped the blockade. It was sent on an old emergency frequency, the kind that only miners used. The signal was weak and full of static, but the message was clear. It was from Han Taiho. He was alive, hiding in the maintenance tunnels beneath the mining complex. He had managed to get a camera, and he had been recording everything. The images he sent were worse than anyone had imagined. The camps were not evacuation centers. They were prisons. The Villani were interrogating colonists about Earth's defenses, about hidden ships, about secret weapons. When people could not answer, they were punished. Some were beaten. Some were taken away and never seen again. Taio's voice was shaking as he recorded his final message. They are not here to evacuate us. They are here to make us an example. They want Earth to see what happens to humans who resist. They are killing us to send a message. The transmission ended with a burst of static. Then silence. The message reached Earth 4 days later. By then, President Kang Mi-rae had already seen the public recordings, the images of the shuttle being destroyed, the reports of camps and violence. But Taio's message was different. It was personal. It was proof. The president called an emergency broadcast. Every screen on Earth, every display in every colony, showed her face. She looked older than she had a week ago. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her hands were trembling slightly. But her voice was strong. Citizens of Earth, brothers and sisters across the stars, you have seen what the Council has done to our people on New Bizen. You have seen the camps. You have seen the children shot from the sky. You have seen the truth of what the Galactic Accord means for humanity. She paused, taking a deep breath. For 50 years, we have tried to be good members of their accord. We have followed their rules. We have accepted their judgments. We have bowed and smiled and hoped that one day they would see us as equals. We were wrong. Her voice grew harder. The Council does not want equals. They want servants. They want slaves. They want creatures that will obey without question, work without complaint, and die without protest. That is not who we are. That is not what humanity was born to be. She stood straighter, her eyes burning. The era of compliance is over. From this moment forward, humanity will no longer beg for scraps from the Council's table. We will not negotiate with those who murder our children. We will not bow to those who put our people in camps. We will fight. Across Earth, across every human colony, people stood up. They cheered. They wept. They felt something they had not felt in 50 years. Hope. Admiral Park, Do-hyun, was waiting in the command center when the president's broadcast ended. He had already given the orders. The hidden fleet was moving. 3,000 ships, built in secret, crewed by volunteers who had trained for this moment their entire lives. They were not going to negotiate anymore. They were going to war. Captain Yoon Ji-soo returned to Earth the following day. She walked off her ship and went straight to the command center. Admiral Do-hyun was waiting for her. "You have heard what happened on New Bizen," he said. "I have seen it," Ji-soo replied. Her voice was flat, controlled, but Do-hyun could see the fury in her eyes. "Lieutenant Han's brother is still there. So are 200,000 of our people. Then you know what must be done." Ji-soo nodded. "Give me a ship, Admiral. A real ship. Something with teeth." Do-hyun smiled for the first time in weeks. "I have something better than a ship, Captain. I have a fleet, and I want you to lead it." He led her to a window overlooking the orbital dry dock. Below, floating in the darkness of space, was the largest warship humanity had ever built. It was not elegant like the Accord vessels. It was not beautiful. It was a weapon pure and simple. The Gwanggaeto, Do-hyun said, named for the greatest warrior king in Korean history. She has been waiting for a captain worthy of her. Ji-soo looked at the ship. It was massive, bristling with weapons, covered in armor plating. It looked angry. "She is perfect," Ji-soo said. 24 hours later, the Gwanggaeto led the human fleet toward New Bizen. 3,000 ships, appearing from the darkness where they had been hidden for 30 years. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. On Volanthos Prime, the Council received reports of the fleet's movement. The Terani elder read the numbers twice, then 3 times. 3,000 ships. Impossible. The humans only had 300. Where did they come from? He demanded. No one could answer. For the first time in 9,000 years, the council did not know what was happening. And for the first time in 9,000 years, they were afraid. The human fleet traveled through faster-than-light space for 6 days. Captain Yoon Ji-soo spent most of that time in the command center of the Gwanggaedo, studying battle plans, reviewing enemy formations, preparing for what was coming. She was not alone. Dr. Choi Sun-woo had joined the fleet as a tactical advisor. His years of studying the Accord had given him knowledge that no human military officer possessed. He knew how the Vellani thought. He knew how they fought. Most importantly, he knew their weaknesses. The Vellani have not fought a real war in 2,000 years, Sun-woo explained to the command staff. Their tactics are ceremonial. They form beautiful patterns in space, designed to show power and intimidate enemies into surrender. They are not prepared for opponents who refuse to be intimidated. Lieutenant Han Nari was also aboard, serving as the fleet's intelligence officer. She had not slept since learning her brother was trapped on New Bizen. Dark circles ringed her eyes, but her mind was sharp. She had spent every hour analyzing Vellani communications, looking for patterns, searching for openings. Their fleet at New Bizen consists of 20 warships, Nari reported. Each ship is approximately 3 times the size of our largest vessel. They have superior shields, superior weapons, and 3,000 years of combat experience encoded in their tactical systems. A young officer in the back of the room spoke up. Then how are we supposed to win? Jisoo smiled. It was not a warm smile. We win by not playing their game. She brought up a display showing the Vellani fleet formation. It was a classic Accord pattern, elegant and symmetrical. The ships were arranged in a sphere around New Bizen, each one at a precise distance from the others, creating overlapping fields of fire. This formation has been used by the Accord for 3,000 years, Jisoo said. Every species in the galaxy knows it. Every species is taught to fear it. The Vellani expect us to see this formation and either surrender or attack it head-on. She zoomed in on the formation, highlighting specific points. But Dr. Choi noticed something interesting. This formation was designed to fight enemies with Accord technology. Our weapons do not work the same way. Sun-woo took over. Accord shields are designed to deflect energy weapons fired from long range. They create a field that disperses incoming fire over a wide area. Very effective against the precision weapons that civilized species use. But human weapons are different. He showed images of human missiles, human cannons, human warheads. They were crude compared to Accord technology. They were also brutally effective. We use kinetic weapons, Sun-woo continued. Solid projectiles, fired at enormous speeds. Mass and velocity, the oldest weapons in the universe. Accord shields are not optimized for this type of attack. In testing, our weapons penetrated Vellani shield simulations at nearly 80% effectiveness. The room went quiet as the officers absorbed this information. Nari spoke next. There is something else. The Vellani communicate through a central command ship. All orders flow from one vessel to the rest of the fleet. If we destroy that ship, their coordination will collapse. Jisoo nodded. And we know which ship it is. Nari identified it through communication pattern analysis. It is the 3rd ship from the top of their formation, slightly larger than the others. That is our primary target. The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. The human fleet would not attack the Vellani formation directly. Instead, they would use their superior speed to punch through at one point, drive straight for the command ship, destroy it, and then scatter the confused enemy fleet with overwhelming firepower. It was a gamble. If it failed, humanity would lose its fleet and its best chance for survival. But Jisoo was not thinking about failure. She was thinking about the children on that shuttle. She was thinking about Nari's brother hiding in tunnels. She was thinking about 200,000 people waiting for rescue. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light space at the edge of the new business system. For a moment, there was silence as human sensors scanned the area and confirmed what they already knew. The Vellani fleet was waiting for them. The Vellani commander sent a transmission immediately. His silver face appeared on screens across the human fleet, his expression calm and slightly amused. "Humans, you have shown impressive foolishness by coming here. Our sensors count 3,000 vessels. Impressive for a minor species. But you cannot win this battle. Surrender now, and we will be merciful." Jisoo did not respond immediately. She waited, letting the silence stretch, letting the Vellani commander wonder if his transmission had been received. Finally, she spoke. "This is Captain Yoon Jisoo of the United Terran Fleet. You are holding 200,000 of our citizens prisoner. You have murdered our children. You have violated every principle of the accord you claim to protect. We are not here to negotiate." She paused. "We are here to take them back." The Vellani commander laughed. "Then you have chosen extinction." "So be it." His image disappeared. Seconds later, the Vellani fleet began to move, adjusting their perfect formation to face the human threat. Jisoo gave the order. "All ships, attack pattern Guangdero. Full speed ahead." The human fleet accelerated. Unlike the graceful movements of Accord vessels, human ships moved with raw power. Engines flared. Weapons charged. 3,000 ships turned from a scattered formation into a spear, pointed directly at the heart of the Vellani fleet. The Vellani opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams lanced across space, slamming into human shields. Several ships took damage. 2 smaller vessels exploded. But the fleet did not slow down. The spear kept flying. The Vellani fired again and again. More human ships died. But for every ship that fell, the rest grew closer. And as the distance closed, the Vellani began to realize something was wrong. Human weapons were firing back. Missiles and projectiles, simple and brutal. They should have been useless against Accord shields. The Vellani tactical system said they would be deflected. They were not deflected. The first kinetic rounds hit the Vellani formation like hammers. Ships that had never been seriously damaged in centuries suddenly found their shields failing. Armor that was supposed to be invincible was pierced by simple metal moving at impossible speeds. The Vellani commander shouted orders. Adjust shields. Change formation. Target the human flagship. But his fleet was not trained for this kind of fight. They were trained for ceremonies, for shows of force, for enemies who knew they were beaten before the battle even started. Humans did not know how to be beaten. The Guangdero reached the Vellani formation first. Jisoo drove her ship straight through the defensive line, taking hits that would have destroyed any Accord vessel. Human armor was thicker, heavier, uglier. It held. Target the command ship, Jisoo ordered. All forward weapons fire. The Guangdero unleashed everything it had. Missiles, cannons, railguns, weapons that the Accord considered primitive and obsolete. The Vellani command ship shields flickered and failed. Its hull cracked. Its engines exploded. The ship broke apart in a burst of silver fire. Without their commander, the Vellani fleet fell into chaos. Ships that had been perfectly coordinated began acting independently, getting in each other's way, blocking lines of fire. Human ships poured through the gaps, targeting engines and weapons, crippling rather than destroying when possible. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 14 Vellani ships were destroyed, and 4 more were drifting without power. Only 2 managed to escape, fleeing into faster-than-light space with the news of what had happened. The human fleet had lost almost 300 ships and nearly 10,000 lives. But they had won. Jizu took a shuttle down to New Bizan's surface. The camps were still standing, but the Vellani guards were gone. Human soldiers were already opening the gates, letting the prisoners out. Lieutenant Hanari was on the first shuttle to land. She ran through the crowds of freed colonists, calling her brother's name. For 10 terrible minutes, she could not find him. Then she heard a voice, weak and tired, but alive. "Nari, over here." Taiho was sitting against a wall, covered in dirt and bruises. He looked like he had not eaten in days, but he was smiling. Nari fell to her knees and wrapped her arms around him. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Behind them, human flags were rising over New Bizan, the first human victory in a galactic war that had just begun. And across the galaxy, on Volantos Prime, the Council received the news in stunned silence. The era of peace was over. The humans had ended it. Now they wouldn't have to deal with the consequences. The news of New Bizan spread across the galaxy like fire. No one could believe it at first. A minor species, members of the Accord for only 50 years, had destroyed a Vellani fleet. The same Vellani who had conquered star systems when humans were still learning to farm. The same Vellani who had not lost a battle in 2,000 years. On Volantos Prime, the Council met in emergency session. The Grand Assembly Hall, which had seen 9,000 years of calm deliberation, was filled with chaos. The 12 elder species argued and accused each other. The Vellani demanded immediate revenge. The Terrani counseled patience. The Kefani wondered if perhaps they had underestimated humanity. No one could agree on what to do. The Terrani elder, the oldest member of the council, finally brought order to the chaos. His voice was cold and sharp as he addressed the assembly. "We have 2 choices. The first is war. We combine our fleets, travel to Earth, and destroy humanity completely. We have the numbers. We have the power. We can end this threat forever." He paused, letting his words sink in. The second choice is negotiation. We admit that we made a mistake. We treated humanity as children when they were not children. We pushed them until they pushed back. And now we must deal with the consequences. A Vellani representative stood up, his silver body trembling with rage. Negotiation? With those primitives? They destroyed 14 of our ships. They killed thousands of our warriors. And you suggest we negotiate? The Terrani looked at him with ancient eyes. I suggest we think very carefully before we act. Yes, we could destroy Earth. We could gather every ship from every elder species and crush humanity with overwhelming force. But consider the cost. He touched a control, and images appeared in the center of the hall. Images of other species, younger species, the ones who had been watching quietly from the edges of Accord space for centuries. The Morani, the Palathi, the Sovani. Dozens of species who joined the Accord when they were weak and have remained weak ever since. They are watching what happens here. If we destroy humanity easily, they will remain obedient. But if humanity fights back, if they make us bleed, if they show that the elder species can be hurt, he let the sentence hang in the air. Then every younger species in the galaxy will start to wonder. They will wonder if they too could fight back. They will wonder if the doctrine of stillness is a prison they no longer need to accept. And we will face not one rebellion, but dozens. The hall was silent. The elder species looked at each other, and for the first time, there was fear in their eyes. In that silence, a message arrived from Earth. Admiral Park Do-yoon had recorded it himself. His old face filled the screens of the Grand Assembly Hall, and his voice echoed through the ancient chamber. Council of the Galactic Accord. This is Admiral Park Do-yeon speaking on behalf of the United Terran government. I am sending this message to offer you a choice. He paused, his eyes steady and calm. We did not want this war. We never wanted this war. All we ever wanted was to be treated as equals. To grow, to learn, to take our place among the stars as a free people. You denied us that chance. You tried to make us slaves. And when we refused, you murdered our children. His voice grew harder. We will not forget what happened at New Bizin. We will not forget the camps, the interrogations, the shuttle full of families that your ships destroyed. Those memories will burn in human hearts forever. Then his voice softened, just slightly. But we are not seeking revenge. We are not seeking conquest. We are seeking something much simpler. Respect. The right to exist on our own terms. The right to defend ourselves. The right to stand as equals with every other species in this galaxy. He leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. You can accept this. You can acknowledge that the doctrine of stillness was a mistake. You can invite humanity to join the Accord as full members, with all the rights and responsibilities that implies. You can begin to build something new, something better than the system that has kept the galaxy frozen in place for 9,000 years. His eyes narrowed. Or you can refuse. You can come to Earth with all your fleets and try to destroy us. Maybe you will succeed. Maybe you will wipe humanity from the galaxy. But you will pay a price for that victory. We have shown you that we know how to fight. We have shown you that we are not afraid to die. And we have shown you that your ancient weapons and ancient tactics are not as invincible as you believed. He smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. There is an old human saying, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. But that only works if the nail is made of weaker steel than the hammer. Try to hammer us, and you might break your hammer instead. The message ended. The council sat in stunned silence. For 3 weeks, they debated. Ships from every elder species gathered in Accord space, preparing for war. Human scouts watched from a distance, reporting every movement back to Earth. The galaxy held its breath. And then something unprecedented happened. The Kephani, one of the 12 elder species, broke ranks. Their representatives stood in the Grand Assembly hall and announced that they would not participate in any war against humanity. They had watched the battle at New Bizin. They had seen the courage of the human fleet. And they had decided that humanity deserved a chance. One by one, other species followed. The Terrani remained neutral. The Morani, the oldest of the protected species, sent a secret message to Earth expressing support. Even some Velani, the ones who had not lost family at New Bizin, began to question whether this war was worth fighting. In the end, the Council did something it had never done before in 9,000 years of history. It requested a negotiation, not a summons, not a judgment, a request. Captain Yoon Ji-soo returned to Valantos Prime for the 3rd time. This time, she did not come alone. Dr. Choi Sung-woo was with her, along with Lieutenant Han Nari and a delegation of human diplomats. They walked into the Grand Assembly Hall with their heads held high. The Terrani elder met them at the center of the chamber. He looked older than before, wearier, as if the events of the past weeks had aged him centuries. Captain Yoon, he said, you have caused us a great deal of trouble. Jisoo smiled politely. That was not our intention, honored elder. We simply wished to be heard. The Terrani studied her for a long moment. You have been heard. The Council is prepared to discuss terms. We offer humanity provisional full membership in the Accord, with equal rights and responsibilities. The doctrine of stillness will be revised to allow for reasonable military growth among younger species. In exchange, Humanity will not seek revenge for New Bizen and will work with the Accord to maintain galactic peace. Jizoo considered the offer. She looked at Sunwoo, who nodded slightly. She looked at Nari, who was fighting to keep her emotions under control. "We have one additional condition," Jisoo said. The Tarani raised what might have been an eyebrow. "And what is that?" "The Vellani officers responsible for the massacre at New Bizen will be identified and tried for war crimes. Not by human courts, but by an independent tribunal under Accord law. If the Accord claims to stand for justice, then it must apply that justice to all species equally." The Vellani representatives began to protest, but the Tarani silenced them with a look. "That is reasonable," the elder said slowly. "It will be done." Jizoo extended her hand, a human gesture that the Tarani had probably never seen before. After a moment, the elder reached out and took it. "Then we have an agreement," Jisoo said. "The era of human submission is over. The era of partnership begins." The news reached Earth 3 days later. President Kan Mira addressed the planet one final time, her face shining with tired joy. "We have won," she said simply. "Not a war, but something more important. We have won our right to exist. We have won our place among the stars. We have won the future for our children and their children." She paused, looking out at the cameras, at the billions of faces watching her. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The galaxy is changing, and humanity will help shape that change. Not as conquerors, not as slaves, but as equals, as partners, as humans. Across the planet, people celebrated. They danced in the streets. They wept with joy. They held their children close and told them that everything would be different now. Admiral Park Do-hyun watched the celebrations from his office window. He was too old for dancing, too tired for joy. But he felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Pride. A knock came at his door. Captain Yoon Jisoo entered, still wearing her formal uniform from the negotiations. "It is done, Admiral," she said. "We have our place at the table." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "And now the real work begins. Building trust. Proving ourselves. Showing the galaxy that we are worthy of this chance." Jisoo stood beside him at the window, looking up at the stars. "We will show them," she said quietly. "We have been underestimated before. We have been dismissed and ignored and told to know our place. And every time, we proved them wrong." She smiled. "That is what humans do. We prove them wrong." Outside the window, the stars sparkled in the endless darkness. Among them, somewhere was New Bizen, now free. Valanthos Prime, now changed. And 1,000 other worlds that were just beginning to realize what humanity's victory meant. The era of peace was over. But perhaps, just perhaps, something better was beginning. An era of hope.